The day is finally here. Greetings Marines, FiOth here, and I suppose you came here because you wanted to hear the opinion of someone who knows aliens and isn't in anyone's pocket. Dark Descent is finally upon us, and you'll be glad to know it's really good. Let's get the basics out of the way. Aliens Dark Descent is a real-time strategy game where you control a squad of marines taking on various missions in a story-driven campaign in order to contain a very specific threat. The specifics of which, of course, I'm not gonna lay down because this is a spoilers-free review. There are questions though, questions expressed by many people about how this thing actually plays. We've heard things like Perma Death and the fact that you do not have control over what happens in your save files and the difficulty of it and how it controls the moment-to-moment gameplay, and I'm here to answer all this. I will move forward with explaining mechanics first, and then I will go on to relay my thoughts on the technical aspect of the game, the graphics of which you can already see on your displays. So, you play a scenario in real time. The only way to slow the game down or pause it, because yes, there is an option to pause instead of slowing down, is to hit a designated button to give your marine specific commands focused on utilizing abilities. The pause system is not made so much as to be able to catch your breath, as it is integral in order to utilize each marine specific abilities. Now, if abilities are shared among your marines, the one most capable and not preoccupied marine will execute that ability, and you'll be glad to know it works extremely well. I was actually very surprised because I'd say weld that door, one marine would go to welding, I would give the other 3 marines commands to loot boxes or search corpses, and then I'd give a 5th command whilst having 4 marines in my squad to go and reload a sentry, for example, and that would queue up the most appropriate marine for the job after they completed their initial task. Marines will also function automatically when it comes to fighting. Whilst they're walking or backtracking, they will keep shooting at targets without the need for you to designate them manually. What will help taking down targets is the kill that bastard command, that consists of you clicking on a specific enemy to be focused, but even if you don't do that, they're always ready to fight and always aware of their surroundings. Now you start out with a bunch of rookies that are carrying the traditional pulse rifle, a sidearm, and a shotgun that is used as a special ability, but then you can specialize and create gunners that are the heavy guns and overall offensive specialists, sergeants who are the units responsible for raising the bravery of your marines, making them overall more effective and resistant to stress. Then you have your medics that will heal you and save your life if you go down. Recons that use sniper rifles and convert tactics to recon the battlefield and take out enemies from extreme distances. And techers who are Hudson, man, hacking shit and making stuff work. So all that creates an experience that ultimately leads to you having to manage your troops, keep them alive, upgrade them with specific roles in mind, and deploy them as needed. For example, you can have a taker who specializes in robotics more, or another who specializes in using and deploying a drone more. Is not as in-depth as in, let's say, XCOM, because XCOM provides a plethora of choices for build crafting, but there are still choices to be made here about the gear and the specialization of each of your characters. There is also base management, and the interesting thing about this game that plays into the Xeno logic and themes is that your marines endure stress as they are deployed on missions. When you're being hunted or stalked, or you are cornered and have to defend yourself against an onslaught, marines build up stress. That can lead to trauma like xenomorphophobia, pyrophobia, claustrophobia, and so on and so forth. And the accumulation of such traumas will ultimately lead in a marine being heavily handicapped. You can counteract this by psychiatric therapy later on, and it's a plethora of interesting systems that we haven't really seen in a game like this before. Now XCOM is turn-based and this is real-time, but you get the gist of it when it comes to management and getting stuff done in a productive and optimized way. Now the mission structure works something like this. Missions are quite big individually, but you don't have to tackle them during just one sortie, one deployment. You can go into a mission, get a couple of objectives done, and then you can extract by using the armored transport vehicle in order to go back, recuperate, and then go back in. If you finish a mission but you don't have it done 100% and you move on to another mission, you can turn back to the previous one to clean it up, and even a sentry you might have placed somewhere at some point will still be there. The world is 100% persistent across the board. Loot that you haven't picked up, stuff that you might have left behind, every single thing stays on the battlefield as you left it. Very, very interesting because it allows you to plan ahead without having to worry about stuff getting left behind. Now, in some cases, that's not a very safe bet because of the pretty buggy state of the game at this point. I played through 4 missions by the time I'm writing this, and although I didn't stumble on any bugs that would stop my progress, I was sometimes unable to repair drones and I had to leave the area and come back to repair them. Sometimes interactables would not be interactable, and a plethora of crashes on PC. I think when the game stretches your system, and I was playing 1440p on everything on Ultra, it sometimes can lead to a crash. Lowering to 1080p kinda fixed this, so I think it's memory management. I don't know, and I am pretty sure they will keep patching it and optimizing it. So the technical difficulties encountered on day 1, or in my case a week prior to release, don't necessarily mean that the game will be in a bad state when you purchase it. Speaking of how this thing runs, as you can see on your screens, it looks very beautiful when you crank up the settings and is not extremely heavy to run on any decent hardware. You can give it some leeway with your settings, lower your resolution, and you'll have a pretty stable experience when it comes to frame rates. One thing I cannot understand is why they forced Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5 to run 1080p if you want 60 frames. Who is gonna play this on a 55-inch 4K TV in this day and age and be happy with it running at 1080p? It makes no freaking sense. You can go 4K, but then you have to go 30 frames, and although it's not a shooter, it's kinda stupid to have to deal with this compromise. It is not Halo Infinite, it's not Starfield. But anyway, I digress. Just know what you're getting into if you choose to play on consoles. Suffice it to say, PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, it's 1080p, 30 frames per second. Sound is fantastic, the weapons sound authentic, and the voice acting is really good for a game like this. The music during missions creates a sense of tension and dread whilst you're trying to navigate the various corridors and areas in order to reach your objectives. Now, when it comes to navigation, although pathfinding is excellent, where the game kinda stumbles is the way it forces you to actually move throughout its environments. This is a strategy game that's focused on stealth, and that might sound a bit strange because it is, and I don't think we've had many games like this, but when you're fighting in an environment that involves Xenos, your default status is that you're not detected. Once you're detected, they will keep swarming. That's all well and good because it's an aliens game and the primary objective always is not to get noticed by the Xenos. The problem is the RNG involved in this process. You might be lucky and there will be nothing in your immediate surrounding and you'll totally fine, or you might get extremely unlucky and get yourself in a situation where they're spawning from everywhere and evading them is impossible. There are a couple of ways to counteract this, like using a recon with a sniper rifle and a silencer to get the drones out of the way and create paths to move forward before they can spot you, but if you do not have access to this individual class in a scenario, you don't really have a say on how things are gonna occur. If you get detected, a timer will start called a hunt timer, and at that point they're always converging in your location looking for you. If you move into the onslaught stage of this situation, you have a huge wave that already knows where you are coming in on you, and you have a few seconds to set up your sentries and defend yourself. This, coupled with the stress mechanic, creates situations in where your marines will get overstretched over bad luck, because in a different scenario you would have never been spotted. Not ideal in my humble opinion. I don't know why strategy games keep staying plagued by this RNG phenomenon. XCOM has the targeting RNG, where you might have a 99% chance to hit something at point blank range and you'll still miss, and this has the randomness of how the encounters will play out. It's a hit or miss situation, and the higher the difficulty setting, I was playing on hard for example, the harder it is to navigate without getting spotted and having to fight again and again. It feels really good when you navigate an area and you're finally able to cleanly go through it and hit an objective, but when it doesn't happen and you know it wasn't your fault, it can get pretty damn annoying. In between the days where you sortie troops, deploy and complete objectives, you are back at the Otago, your base, and you can treat them for their wounds, their psychiatric traumas, you can develop weapons, you can train them in different classes, give them perks and so on and so forth. So this is a pretty in-depth title, not ideal if all you wanna do when you game is have a reticule in front of you shooting stuff in the head, which has been a staple of this IP in most cases. If you take extinction and isolation out of the picture, it's pretty much shooters all the way. Now, Aliens is a pretty cursed franchise, because although we have many good Aliens games, there hasn't still been one that you'll call a masterpiece. Say, it does everything almost perfectly, and if you play it, there will be very few things to nitpick. In case of Dark Descent, it is a really good game for what it's trying to do, but still, it is plagued by a lot of RNG aspects, and sometimes it feels like things are not entirely in your control, even if you're extremely careful, work fast, and play the way the game's intended to be played. All in all though, if you want to get this game, start from the bottom, ease your normal modes, learn the ropes, and then procedurally move into the higher tiers of difficulty. I think you'll be eased into the situation, understand mechanics, and be able to manage things better. There are two main ways to play. One is the normal game, where the game auto-saves in specific situations, and then you can pick one of these auto-saves up to a certain amount, but it gives you a lot of leeway. And the other one is the no one can hear you scream mode, where you only save automatically on the Otago and when you get into a dungeon or a mission, and that is the point where you have to make do with whatever comes your way, because there is no way to quick save or keep your progress. If anything goes south, you either load the deployment save or the Otago save, and you have to make do with what is available and whatever happens from then on. Of course, Perma Death is a thing. If your marine dies, they're gone forever. Until they die, there are a few choices. You can get them out of a coma, carry them back home, heal them. But if they're dead, they're dead. Of course, since we can't save and load, I don't think there's any sane person out there who will let the Marines die on their first playthrough, because it takes quite a bit of time to level them up and promote them, so you'll want to keep them alive and keep at it until they're maxed and powerful and then can survive a variety of situations. Closing remarks, since this became Clack the Blabbermouth Festival. If you love Aliens and you love RTS games, you are gonna love Dark Descent. It's not perfect, but it is really good despite its faults. If you only want shooters in your life and curse the day that they didn't make Fireteam Elite 2 or Alien vs Predator 3 or Aliens Isolation 2, which is of course not a first-person shooter, but maybe the first-person perspective just scratches the itch, you won't like it, guys. I don't think humanity ever recovered from the early 2000s first-person shooter craze, and Aliens is of course another casualty of this situation. If you play it for what it is though, you're gonna have a really good time. Have to warn you right here. these streams are gonna be humongous. Hope I answered all your questions here. If I missed anything, let me know in the comment section below. I'll come back with a reply as soon as I see them. Sub, like, and share if you enjoy content like this. This game will be covered to great extent on this channel, so stick around for more. Until next time, be well, stay frosty, and always strive for perfection, Marines. Cheers!